kumba wama bikum min ni'mat fa min Allah, chochote katika neema mko nacho ni kutoka kwa Allah. Halafu uende ukaabudie mawe, Mungu atakubali. Heart of a Muslim, well to be part of Islam. The heart of a Muslim, united we will always stand.
Hawezi kuingia ndani ya hospitali.
Wewe. Ega, hawa watu wananionanga namna gani?
Ni wewe umenifanya niwe nikiandikwa kama nguo. Natolewa asubuhi na naota jua halafu narudishwa. Siwezi fanyia wewe.
Wewe tunga hiyo pande nyingine uandike kabisa. Yes, analetea uchinga kwa nini? I inject that indopicin. Yes, indopicin, ndio? Epidural. I'm lying, I'm not a cleaner, ndio?
Sasa wewe mwenyewe una conclude you are lying, okay?
No, I'm just
you have agreed that you are lying.
So what?
Allah?
Not you.
Sasa nini?
Ni ngumu.
Yours was the face I saw above my cradle, the only mother I've ever known. But my feet are set upon a road that I must follow.
I will teach thee. Man shall be ruled by law, not by the will of other men.
Slaves are mine.
Let my people go.
I know not his God, neither will I let his people go.
You have not obeyed the Lord.
This night, the Lord our God will deliver us from the bondage of Egypt.
They shall die under my chariot wheels. So let it be written, so let it be done.
Differently. To be able to embrace people with cerebral palsy, society needs to understand how it comes about and the journey of management. Take a look.
Matthew attributes his success to supportive family. However, not so many children with cerebral palsy are this lucky.
When the father and the mother, the two caregivers, comes in together and understands the condition of the child, this is the key to support of this child.
'Cause we're differently abled.
Well, the International Maritime Organization is a premier agency for managing and regulating the shipping industry in the world. It is such an important organization because globally, almost 90% of global trade is done using our oceans, our waters, and so that's why it is a very critical institution. Ambassador Nancy Karegedu is Kenya and Africa's choice to head the IMO in London, and the elections are coming up in July. Well, the tenure of South Korean Ki-tak Liam is coming to an end. And on this week's episode of Inside Government, we're joined by Ambassador Nancy Karegedu. We're going to find out how is she prepared to take over the mantle of leadership at IMO, and of course, who is behind her candidature. Thank you very much indeed, Ambassador, for joining us on Inside Government.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Very good. I mean, you are one of the most prominent women in shipping and maritime industry, not only here in Kenya, but in Africa. What are you bringing on the table in terms of wanting to take over the leadership of IMO?
Thank you very much. Let me start by saying that I'm a maritime professional with a career spanning almost 40 years. And I have been involved in the maritime sector from the low echelons of government in the private sector, and had had the opportunity to take charge of policy, legal, institutional, and policy frameworks for maritime administration, not just in Kenya, but in Africa and the region. And I've also had an opportunity to play a role in the International Maritime Forum. I'm a maritime lawyer by profession, started my job within the ports, then left and went into private practice. Within that space, then I was privileged to play a leading role in shaping Africa's blue economy journey, because working with IMO, I was involved in advising governments in Africa on how to separate maritime administration from mainstream governments to standalone institutions. And I was involved in that for 11 years, and my fingerprints are in many, or I've touched many of the governments in Africa, starting with next door Tanzania, Ethiopia, Gambia, Seychelles, and many others. Before I finished that, I had the opportunity to serve a stint at the African Union doing policy documents in similar vein for governments to adopt in order to implement IMO and other international conventions that interface or play a role in guiding the maritime sector. So what I'm saying is that I'm well qualified, and I believe that I have what it takes to lead the IMO into the future.
You have been at the forefront of driving shipping and maritime, as well as the blue economy here in Kenya.
Yes.
And you are mandated, one of your first mandate in this industry was to, first of all, set up structures at the Kenya Maritime Authority, which you have managed to do, well, which you did. And now KMA is a big institution in the maritime industry in this country and the region as well. And so this local experience that you have gained, how do you plan to use it at the international level to drive the growth of IMO?
Okay, let me say that I've had a long-standing association with Kenya's maritime industry, nurtured and overseen its growth, beginning with especially when I joined the Kenya Maritime Authority as the first Director General, and a position I held for 9 years. I was responsible for establishing the legal framework under which Kenya discharges its international maritime obligations. And under the international front, I was responsible for integrating maritime security into the national security programs, leading up to the establishment of the Kenya Coast Guard. I was also responsible for establishing or strengthening maritime education, because with the review of the maritime legislation, then we were able to get accreditation and through whitelist status, and it meant that Kenyans, having trained locally, could get employment internationally. And I was also responsible for laying the foundation for maritime education and training in Kenya, a very firm foundation, and particularly the degrees for marine engineering in JKUAT was started under my watch and leadership. Most important, laying a firm foundation for the integration of maritime sector policies into national economic development, with the result that now the blue economy is firmly anchored under the Kenya blueprint for national development. That's the Vision 2030 is one of the 8 sectors under the economic pillar that are responsible for national economic growth. Now, on the international front, let me say, beginning with the region, when we come to maritime security, and particularly looking at the securing the Western Indian Ocean so that ships could come safely to the ports in the region, and particularly carrying trade to the region, was responsible, and I played a key role in establishing the regional frameworks for collaboration and strengthening and attaining maritime security. As a leading member of Kenya's delegation to the IMO, I was able to establish leadership to the point that I was elected to serve as chair of the Technical Cooperation Committee, which is only one of 5 committees through which IMO does it work. And also I chaired, I was vice chair for the International Maritime Satellite Organization in 2018, vice chair for Africa, chairperson of the Association of Women in the Maritime sector in Eastern and Southern Africa, which is very important because under SDG 5 for equity, gender equity, IMO then had started programs to ensure that women are fully integrated into the maritime sector. And this is an association that has played a key role in nurturing, mentoring and coaching the next generation of young people, not just women, into the maritime sector. So I believe that with the leadership that I have shown both within Kenya, within the region and on the international front, I am now motivated to lead IMO into the next phase of development.
And you are talking about ensuring that women, they play a greater role in shipping as well as maritime industry. And when you look at this industry, which is critical to the survival of the world trade, women make up about 2.1%. In the maritime industry, and so what is your agenda in mainstreaming women agenda in the global maritime industry?
Okay, it's interesting that you ask that, particularly at a time when we are looking to celebrate the 2nd edition of the IMO International Day for Maritime Women globally, which is entering its 2nd year on the 18th of May next week. Now, like you have observed, under the SDGs, gender equity was considered so important that it was given its own standalone SDG 5. You cannot move a sector that is as important as the maritime sector, leaving half of the population behind. And as you have rightly observed, in one of the key sectors of the maritime sector, the blue economy, which is maritime transport, shipping, women form less than actually 2%. Although we have other sectors of the blue economy where women play a role, and we are told that, or statistics and reports have told us that women occupy 34% of the position. But even in that, there is disparity in terms of wages, in terms of the roles that they can play. And therefore, it is one of the important roles I have identified in my vision as I prepare to lead IMO, that we must play a more strategic, we must be more intentional and more proactive in ensuring that women occupy their rightful position. We cannot move as a society when half the members of society are not on the table with us. And therefore, gender equity is going to be one of the strong points. It's one of the strong points of my campaign. And of course, one of the issues that we have said and we are looking at is seeing it to believe it. Getting enough role models at senior level that young girls can look at and identify with and say, I want to be like that. Seeing is believing. And therefore, it's positioning women, encouraging them to take their role of coaching and mentorship, and also working with industry, because this is a journey that must be undertaken by both government, or rather the public and the private sector together. Now, there are many reasons that women are held behind. Some of them are to do with tradition, gender bias, and therefore breaking down those barriers is going to be very, very important. So one of the issues I'm going to be looking at is diversity and inclusivity, and bringing in not just women but also the youth, because this has been a sector that has been not very very proactive, or rather, let's say IMO has played a key role, particularly when I talked about building the networks for women that mentor and coach the next generation. But it seems from the figures you've said, we need to do more, because those figures has remained.
To bring more women on board.
Yes.
Very good. If you're just watching this interview, we're coming to you live from Broadcasting House, and our conversation today on Inside Government, we are looking at the International Maritime Organization. The tenure of the current Secretary General, Kitak Lim, is coming to an end in July. And so the member countries will go to the election to vote the next candidate who will definitely succeed Kitak. And Kenya has presented one of the strongest candidates in the name of Ambassador Nancy Karegedu. She is a presidential advisor as well as special envoy for maritime and blue economy. That is the kind of conversation that we are having here. She has just explained what she's going to do to ensure that the role of women in maritime industry is upscaled. And the next question that I want to find from her is that, you know, decarbonization of the maritime industry, you know, is now a big time conversation. And when you look at the Paris Agreement, it talks about making shipping industry carbon zero by the year 2050. Of course, there is a lot of arguments whether it's possible to achieve these, but there is going to be one of your responsibilities to ensure that greenhouse gas emission is reduced within the maritime industry. How do you plan to do this?
Yes, you have rightly observed that the shipping industry has to play its rightful role in ensuring that we attain the level of decarbonization that the global industry needs if we are going to sustain if we are going to stem climate change actions. And shipping has already committed through the IMO to be able to do that. And it's going to be one of my roles to champion the decarbonization of the shipping industry to ensure that we have green shipping. And also the maritime sector plays its role, because the maritime sector is not just shipping, we've got the port industry and other nascent industries. And we are talking of not just the international shipping, but also inland water shipping must do that. The first thing to do, of course, is to attain global regulatory clarity, because that's what will be able to spur the kind of investments and actions that we need. One of the issues that has really been on the table for IMO is to bring consensus on the measures that we have to take. The measures we have to do them in MEPC 80, which is coming in July, will give us that regulatory clarity.
Very well.
On the measures that we have to do. But then one of the other issues is to bring everybody on board. So it's to ensure that there will be not just a transition, but that the transition will be just and equitable.
Very good.
That we will leave nobody behind.
Very good.
One of the issues that has been on the floor is that every country, every region looks at this issue based on their own internal, how it affects them. And therefore, those many voices coming together and into agreement and seeing what role each and every one of us will take becomes very, very important. And therefore, the journey to clarity and the measures that we need to take and how we're going to implement it is going to be one of the key roles upon which we must come to consensus. But July is coming, MEPC 80. You saw last week we had in Kenya a major conference bringing all of Africa together, and the most important constituency of Africa, the maritime administrators, together in Mombasa in order to have one voice.
Good.
As we approach.
We'll continue with this, but for now we just need to take a short break so that you can also, sip a glass of water. If you're just watching this conversation, we are live from Broadcasting House, and of course we're talking to Kenya's choice and Africa's choice for the Secretary General of the International Maritime Organization. This is Ambassador Nancy Karegedu. We're taking a short break, and thereafter we'll be back with more conversations. Stay right here.
Tunaweza mchunguza.
Me and you.
For J&J.
Kari boss.
Mzuri, unaona umeanza kazi mapema eh?
I have a good feeling about this one Usijaribu kumweka kwa mfuko.
Alafu.
That's all you need to know. No more questions.
We will be fine, my love.
Why didn't he ask for me? Was he angry with me?
Don't say that.
How can I help?
Not posting anything on social media without asking me.
What? That could have been a nice content.
He's such a lifesaver. Nothing comes for free. My footage, I don't have it.
Don't let him know that I know.
He means well for the company. You don't need to chase your workers out.
That's none of your business.
Mimi hawezi kuingia ndani ya hospitali.
Ega, hawa watu wananionanga namna gani?
Ni wewe umenifanya niwe nikiandikwa kama nguo. Natolewa asubuhi na naota jua halafu narudishwa. Siwezi fanyia wewe.
Wewe tunga hiyo pande nyingine uandike kabisa. Yes, analetea uchinga kwa nini? I inject that indopsins. Yes, indopsins, ndio? Epidural. I'm lying, I'm not a cleaner, ndio?
Sasa wewe mwenyewe una conclude you are lying, okay?
No, I'm just
you have agreed that you are lying.
So what?
Allah.
Not you.
Sasa nini?
Ni ngumu.
Sasa mzee, si uongee lugha ya taifa ambayo unaielewa.
Yours was the face I saw above my cradle, the only mother I've ever known. But my feet are set upon a road that I must follow.
I will teach thee. Men shall be ruled by law, not by the will of other men.
Slaves are mine.
Let my people go.
I know not his God, neither will I let his people go.
You have not obeyed the Lord.
This night, the Lord our God will deliver us from the bondage of Egypt.
They shall die under my chariot wheels. So let it be written, so let it be done.
Differently. To be able to embrace people with cerebral palsy, society needs to understand how it comes about and the journey of management. Take a look.
Matthew attributes his success to supportive family. However, not so many children with cerebral palsy are this lucky.
When the father and the mother, the two caregivers, comes in together and understands the condition of the child, this is the key to support of this child.
'Cause we're differently abled.
Welcome back. You're watching Inside Government. We are talking about the leadership of the International Maritime Authority in Kenya has placed a significant bet on this, and it has floated the candidature of Ambassador Nancy Karigibo. She's with us here in studio. Balozi, what is your vision for International Maritime Organization?
Thank you. Like I had said initially, my candidature is motivated by the desire to take IMO to the next level. And I'm looking at 5 key areas for my leadership when I get on board. And the first one will be to restore multilateralism and a rule-based system within the IMO in order to bring consensus on the issues that we have identified as challenges or as opportunities for the maritime sector. Within that is to forge closer working relationship between the IMO and the United Nations in New York, particularly on areas of mutual sharing of mandates like security, and also the attainment or the attainment of the SDGs. So that's number one. And within that, I want to say that Kenya has a long history of multilateralism, which has been observed in 3 key areas that I'm going to mention. First of all, when we had piracy challenges, Kenya was the first country to sign a transfer agreement to ensure that suspected pirates captured by the navies within the Indian Oceans were landed in Kenya, tried by a judicial system, and incarcerated in Kenyan prisons. Recently, Kenya became the first country to organize and host the Blue Economy Conference.
In 2018.
To bring the linkage between the attainment of the USDGs and the blue economy, and what role the blue economy could play. That was a first of its kind. Then last year, you will recall that Kenya co-hosted the second United Nations Oceans Conference jointly with Lisbon. So Kenya already has a history, and therefore we're saying that we are a safe pair of hands in which to place the International Maritime Organization going into the future, and to ensure that it is an organization fit for purpose, and bringing the membership together to solve our common problems, as well as take advantage of the opportunities that arise. The other issue that I'm going to be looking at very keenly is to bring diversity and inclusivity into the maritime sector, but of course also within the IMO, and in order to ensure that all the talents available, all the skills available, we can tap into and bring them to the advantage to the next phase of the global maritime industry.
Yeah.
To also bring more connectivity, to be the bridge between the North and the South, South-South collaboration, and to ensure that there are more voices into the IMO among the women, among the youth, most particularly. We are a global community that has almost 60% of our population being the youth, and therefore we're saying that 100% of our future today is in the hands of 60% of the population. Now, forging conversations with that, youthful population and hearing their voice, for them to make their contribution into the kind of world they want to see, that is one thing that I'm going to be very keen on. Then, of course, you've already mentioned it, championing the greening of the shipping and maritime industry, decarbonization, but ensuring that we are all working together towards that future in a just and equitable manner, leaving no one behind, so that the South and the North, in terms of sharing knowledge, sharing technology, but also for others to exploit the opportunity that is presented by the decarbonization journey, we support them in order to realize that. Modernizing the IMO and the industry through digitalization and technological advancement is very important, because you're talking of a generation, or rather of a world that is moving very fast towards digitalization and automation. This is going to be very important, and when you talk of the future, it's in the hands of a generation that grew up in the digital world, and therefore taking advantage of the solution that artificial intelligence offers to be more effective, to be more efficient, to do more with less, and also to increase safety, security, and environmental protection. Using those tools is going to be one of the issues that I'll be championing and taking forth. But of course also creating more partnership for technical cooperation in order to ensure that all of us walk the journey together is going to be very, very, very important. So looking at it differently, doing it in a way that brings more voices, more people, more opportunities, is going to be one of the things that I'm going to look at.
So what is going to happen between now and the election day, and when do you expect to be? Are you going to be sworn in? Are you going to be briefly? How will that work?
For the sake of, I think it's an important question, in order that a lot of people who have asked interesting questions may also begin to understand. First of all, to know that the process of voting, the vote is in the hands of 40 members of the IMO out of the body, the entire body of membership of 175.
Yeah.
Now, the 40 are those who have been elected by the IMO sitting as, the IMO membership sitting as the assembly, and therefore they form the council. And those council members are the ones who are going to be voting in July on the 18th.
Yeah.
And once they vote and we have a result, then the assembly will meet again in December and endorse the decision of the council. Then the new SG, who will be me, hopefully, will take over office.
When are we expected to know? When are we expected to know who will be the winner?
The same day. It's a very transparent, open process. Yeah.
So the voting will happen that day, and
in IMO,
before the close of that day, we'll definitely know that you have won.
Before the close of the session.
It shall be announced to the world
on the day. Yeah.
That Ambassador Nancy Karigido has won.
Is the SG elect.
Is the SG elect.
Until.
And what does this candidature mean for Kenya?
Of course, the way we're looking at it is this is a candidature not just for Kenya. It's a candidature for Africa. It's a candidature for the Global South. We've never held this position before within IMO. It's a candidature that's going to write another chapter in the history of women in maritime, because women have also not held this position. There have been 9 Secretary Generals. We hope the 10th will be the magic number that will bring a different gender to the IMO. There are 3 women candidates, so there's no shortage of talent within the scope of candidature, and therefore it's an opportunity also for the Global South to play its role in a sector that affects each nation's journey into the future in terms of growth and economic development.
Very good.
So,
because we have to wind up the session, in 30 seconds, what is your plea to the people who are watching this program? Should they pray for you, or what should they do?
Let me end it by saying that I am very humbled and honored to have met, the standard, and to have gained the confidence, first of all, of my government through His Excellency, the President, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, to have been nominated, but even further, to have been endorsed by the African Union as the continent's flag bearer on this journey. And I'm very confident that this is a journey we can win, because we have the right skills and the tools. First of all, let me say that much as I have said that it will be the first for a woman, this is a role that is gender neutral. It has to do with experience and the skills
and competence
and so tried and tested. And I want to say that Kenya has chosen a candidate who is equal to the task, and to also add that we are coming into this without any vested interests as a country, as a region, only to do the right thing by and for the international maritime sector.
Very good.
Thank you.
Nancy, Ambassador, we wish you all the best, and it's probably to say that you also have our backing.
Thank you.
And we can't wait to have you being elected into the office, and of course have the next inside government in London in the office, Lloyd's House.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Enjoy your afternoon.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Asante.
Thank you.
Well, Ambassador Nancy Karigido is the presidential advisor and the special envoy for Blue Economy, joining us this afternoon so that she can share with us her vision for the International Maritime Organization position. And she's primed for this position, and according to her and according to everyone else, she is the best choice for this position to succeed South Korean Kitak Lim. My name is O'Brien Kimani. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
tunaweza mchongoza.
Me and you
for J&J.
Bari boss. Mzuri, unaona umeanza kazi mapema eh?
I have a good feeling about this one eh. Usijaribu kumweka kwa mfuko.
Alafu. That's all you need to know. No more questions.
We will be fine, my love.
Why did he ask for me? Was he angry with me?
Don't say that.
How can I help?
Not posting anything on social media without asking me.
What? That could have been a nice content.
You're such a lifesaver. Nothing comes for free. My footage, I don't have it.
Don't let him know that I know.
He means well for the company. You don't need to chase your workers out.
That's none of your business.
Wembozile malume. Do I need to remind you I am your elder? I mean you are Linda. Talk to me like that one more time and utatua mgunguni ni nini?
How can you wear like a scarecrow like this, missing colors like this, my friend?
Barakanash, yes. You should just tell us about your long night. No problem. Now,
who's your name? Shout out for the lyrics, come in.
Julia, say the excitement.
This is the season for weddings, and so far I have been invited to how many? 4.
Kiswahili kitukuzwe.
Hapa ndipo pale ambapo tunaondoa kati ya maharagwe na pojo. Je, mshindo utakuwa nini?
Uchungu moyoni mwangu, roho yangu inauma. Wanitesa wanikera, afadhali mimi nife. Koma wewe buregali, kupayuka unahoja. Wewe hauna kibali, kauli yako si hoja.
Viongozi wanawezaje kumaliza ukabila nchini, ili hali wao wenyewe wanapojitambulisha, wengi wao wanajitambulisha kwa ukabila.
Hilo la kujitanisha na jina ya alikotoka ni kujaribu kuonyesha wananchi kuwa anaelewana na shida zao, anajitambulisha na lugha ambayo amezaliwa.
Kiswahili kitukuzwe.